people, myself situated. Look crooked. I feel like I'm crooked. It's me. It's not you, it's me. It might be you. It might be you. Okay. Angry messages. Do y'all get them? I get them often. Normally in email form. People angrily writing at me. Or it might be like this. I don't know. Like this. But yeah, like work emails, ministry emails, a lot of them. Angry family emails. But like sometimes they're making demands. Sometimes someone was triggered. You get the passive aggressive emails. You get my personal favorite, the narcissistic condescending email. Like, yeah, John, I know that's what you believe, but this is what I believe, and here's how you can believe as I believe. Right? There's those emails, and yes, please keep them coming. Love them. But how do you deal with them? I don't know if I'm dealing with them well. I try to. But they're not new. People want to feel heard, right? I can remember my mom. She would always, like back in the day, she would always want to write someone a letter, right? If she had a problem with a particular company, had a bad experience, she wanted to write somebody a letter. Perhaps your parents or your grandparents did the same thing. Got to write them a letter. I don't know if it ever worked, but it felt like it worked. You wanted to get that off your chest, right? And we have that with the Bible too, right? It's nothing new. You know, instead of like this or this, it's this, right? And the ink and it's that. And that's what the Apostle Paul was doing when he's writing all these letters, these epistles. That's what they are, right? And the epistle, the letter that I want to talk about is Romans chapter 14, verses 1 through 8. Apostle Paul had a problem with a church in Rome. They were debating over whether they can eat everything or just eat vegetables. Yeah, seems silly, but we'll get to that. All right, so this is Romans 14, 1 through 8. Except him whose faith is weak. I don't mean weak as in, weak. I mean restrictive in your focus, like your narrow focus. All right. So accept him whose faith is weak without passing judgment on disputable matters. One man's faith allows him to eat everything, but another man whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. The man who eats everything must not look down on the one who does not, and the man who does not eat everything must not condemn the man who does, for God has accepted him. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To his own master he stands or falls, and he will stand, for the Lord is able to make him stand. One man considers one day more sacred than the other. Another man considers every day alike. Each one should be fully convinced in their own mind. He who regards one day as special does so to the Lord. He who eats meat eats to the Lord and gives thanks to God. He who abstains from that does so to the Lord and gives thanks to God. For none of us lives for themselves alone, and none of us dies to ourselves alone. If we live, we live to the Lord. If we die to the Lord. So whether you live or die, we belong to the Lord. So the Apostle Paul started this church in Rome. He taught them all the foundations of Christianity, all right? And he taught them about worship. Like you're living your life unto the Lord. So whether you are being more narrow in your approach, the things that you do it as worship to God, right? Or if you are embracing the freedom that Christ has given you to do a lot more, right? Well, then you're doing that as worship to the Lord. So Paul was coming in saying, like, why are you destroying your peace amongst your brothers and sisters over food, right? The person who's eating everything, they're doing so as worship to God. The Lord will make them stand. The person who's not, they're doing that as unto the Lord. The Lord will make them stand. It's all worship, so why are you fighting? It's silly, especially over the matter, right? But we argue about a bunch of silly things as well. You think about it, right? I'm a worship leader, so I know we argue a lot over music, and it's awful. That's a whole other post, right? We argue over music. We argue over how the sanctuary should look. We argue over how social media and website stuff should look. We argue over parking spots. We argue over places that we sit, right? We argue over translations, which Bible to use, all kinds of stuff, people. I used to be an elder another life ago, And I can remember one of our elder meetings, we argued, well, I won't call it arguing. We had a long discussion for like 3 or 4 hours over whether we should serve grape juice or wine for communion. And I won't say that I argued. I remember myself being pretty silent in that meeting because I thought it was silly. I thought it was silly. And I don't want to be dismissive. There are some important talks to be had in those elder meetings, but I didn't feel like this was one of them. I was like, just serve both, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm a man of action, all right? I want to do something. I'm not dismissing the people who want to talk, but that's just not me, personally, all right? Now, call me when you're ready to do something. Call me when you want me to pick up the grape juice, you know what I'm saying? You want to pick up some apple juice, you want to pick up the wine, red or white, you know what I'm saying? Call me when you're ready to do something. That's me. That's me, right? But it took forever. And all this back and forth, and then once you make these, once you do decide something, then you gotta get all the angry emails again. And like, why are we arguing so much over these trivial matters? You know, we're here for the gospel. We're here to love one another. We're here to grow in God. We should be focused on that. And I love what the Apostle Paul writes in that text. He says, who are you to judge someone else's servant? And I think that often when someone is coming at me, right? There's times when people come at you and you just need to listen. In this day and age, everyone's coming at you for all kinds of reasons, right? So I think to myself, like, who are they? Who are they that I will let them have power over me? And that's in that way, right? They're not my Lord. Their name ain't Jesus. They ain't down on the cross for my sins, right? They weren't with me when I was in the dark pit and brought me out. They didn't empower me. And they're not my strength. They're not my everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm a servant of the Lord. So by the Lord, I will stand or fall, and I will stand. The Lord will make me stand, as the Apostle Paul wrote. Something to remember. But it goes both ways, right? It goes both ways and all that. Because this is more, if someone's coming at you, but we have no right to judge other people's servants as well, right? You have no right to judge anybody else. They're doing what they're doing is unto the Lord. And even if they're not, God will correct that. It's not for us to judge. So the main point is that we would stay focused as a church in worshiping the Lord. And won't get caught up in all these different arguments, right? I know it's hard to do because our culture so much wants debate and so much looks for reasons to be offended and so much looks and it applauds people for going at others, right? But we do that, to our own detriment at times, especially with church. We're here to worship. So I wish that we could put aside all those things. So my point being, my point being that number one, that we worship, but that be our focus. And number two, if we can just take a break from arguing so much and just get some stuff done, right? Imagine all the things that a church can do if we quit arguing. Not even a church, all those communities out there, everything on social media. When it comes to politics, when it comes to like your local politics, if we can just stop arguing with one another just long enough, we can join arms, join hands and get something done. We can put our skills, talents, our knowledge together and actually get stuff done. So number one, worship. Let that be your focus. All right, don't let anything get between you and what you're doing for your Lord. Right? And number two, take a break from arguing, get something done. Amen? Amen.